Welcome back. A new CBS poll shows a large number of Republicans think the jury got the Derek Chauvin verdict wrong. The jury found Chauvin guilty of second-degree murder, third-degree murder, and also second-degree manslaughter. But about 75% of those surveyed thought the verdict was correct, with 25% saying it was not. And of that 25%, more than 50% were conservative and also male.
All right, we're going to keep up here with that. Let's welcome in our panelists. Hal Lambert, former Ted Cruz National Finance Chair and founder and CEO of Point Bridge Capital. You got Jennifer Kearns here, host of All American Radio and publisher of allamericannews.com. Dino Scaros is going to join us as well. He's a presidential historian and immigration attorney. He's also the author of Trumped Up Charges, which is the book right here on your screen. Hal Lambert, I want to start with you on this one. Your reaction to that poll. I know we kind of briefly rattled off some numbers to you, but 46% of Republicans think that the Chauvin verdict was wrong. Are you surprised by that? What are your thoughts on it?
Well, I think it's really a reflection of Republicans' trust of the media. I think that's really a reflection on that. They don't like the media. The media narrative from the very beginning was guilty until proven innocent. And that went on throughout the trial and up to the trial. You also had, Maxine Waters coming out and threatening violence if there wasn't a guilty verdict. So I think that's really a reflection of that. Most Americans didn't watch that trial. I didn't watch the trial. It's on during the day. Most people are working. So they really don't have a way to look at the trial in full and see whether or not he was guilty. The verdict was guilty, and so you have to go with that. And that's what I believe. If the verdict came back guilty, he's guilty. But I think when you poll it, people tend to push back mainly on the Republican side because of that media narrative.
Again, of course, guilty on all charges. We reported it right as the verdict came in. Jennifer Kearns, your thoughts on Republicans thinking perhaps this verdict was wrong? Again, it was just a sample, and this sample is included in the polls, and take polling how you will.
Yeah, I was actually surprised that the number was that low. You look at Republicans across the board, they firmly believe in law and order. I think, the support for police in this country, the majority of whom, 90% of whom are good, hardworking public servants, is also very high in the Republican Party. I think the reason the number was below 50% because people are afraid to tell pollsters what they truly think. We saw that in the last couple of elections dating back to even the 2014 midterms, that the pollsters got it wrong by about 10 points. So I was actually surprised it was lower than I thought it would be.
There was an interesting piece of sound kind of on this same topic. Minnesota Attorney General Keith Ellison, a name we've heard a lot, actually appeared on 60 Minutes last night. He actually says he felt badly for the defendant. Listen.
I spent 16 years as a criminal defense lawyer, so I will admit I felt a little bad for the defendant. I think he deserved to be convicted, but he's a human being.
So just to be clear, he's talking about Derek Chauvin in this. He went on to say he didn't think the judge should go light or heavy on Chauvin's sentencing. As you know, there obviously would be a lot of pressure because in June, the judge will have to decide his fate of how many years that Chauvin would serve. In the state of Minnesota here, I believe it would be right at 12 and a half years of the guidelines for that state to sentence Chauvin. But again, there still is outcry there for some of the harshest penalties to come down on Chauvin. Dino Scaros, your reaction to hearing the Attorney General there?
Well, it's not very often, but I actually thought he gave a good interview. I agreed with a lot of what he said. I thought it was also great that he pointed out that when the police pull over a white physician and don't throw him on the ground and put a knee to his neck, it's not because he is their white brother. It's because they may think, okay, this guy may have connections. This guy may know a lot of lawyers. This guy may know the governor. I thought that was a great point. I also wanted to talk about this poll, though. You see, the average American hears the word murder and they think it must mean intentional. They don't understand there's something in the law called felony murder, which is basically accidental murder, okay? So if they ask the question, do you think George Floyd died? The answer is obviously yes. And do you think he was killed maybe even accidentally? And the answer there is yes. You can be convicted of murder based on that. And a lot of people confuse what the law is with what the law, how they want it to be. And so I think that's why you got those answers. Murder is not always intentional.
Well, the jury obviously came to the conclusion guilty again on all charges. As Sean said, we are awaiting the sentencing decision to come in. In the meantime, our panelists, we appreciate your insight. Hal Lambert, Jennifer Kearns, Dino Scaros. Please stick around. We've actually got some more to get to. Well, we are almost 100 days into the Biden presidency, and we're getting a closer look at how Americans think he's doing.
Yeah, if you take this poll, this Wall Street Journal, NBC News poll here, his overall approval rating right now 53%, with 90% of Democrats giving Biden a thumbs up. But as far as Republicans go, it sits there at 9%.
Let's take a look at some of those key issues. Biden's approval is being dragged down by his handling of the border crisis and also gun legislation. More than 50% disapproving each area. 69% approve the handling of COVID, so he's doing well on that, but only 52% think he's doing well unifying the nation. We want to welcome back in our panelists, Hal Lambert, Jennifer Kearns, Dino Scaros. Hal, talk to me about overall approval rating. If we could pull up that first poll, we'll get a generic sense of where the president stands. Not doing so well with Republicans, but doing pretty well with Democrats.
Yeah, but I think this is really bad news for President Biden. He's well below where Obama was, well below where George W. Bush was at the same time. He is above where Trump was. But hey, let's look at this. His #1 approval rating is in the handling of the coronavirus. Well, that's going to go away, okay, going into the next election. It's certainly going to be gone by midterms. And that's after sending $1,400 checks to 161 million people. So if you're a family of 4, you got $5,600, and Joe Biden gets to take credit for that, and you're still at only 53% approval. And by the way, registered voters, it's only 51% approval. So I predict that going forward, it goes down from here as the coronavirus goes away. Those stimulus checks that went out to everybody are no longer in a long distant memory. And I think that this goes lower for him. I think it's actually really bad news.
Jen Kearns, if you go back in the record book here, back 75 years, only 2 presidents have had lower approval ratings than Joe Biden in his first 100 days, President Trump and Gerald Ford. Recently, we'll show you that as well. Barack Obama, George W. Bush scored 61% and 57% respectively. Your reaction to that and your thought again on these recent poll numbers and how they do play out for this Biden administration. Jen Kearns.
Yeah, I think the 10 points lower than Obama was at this point is pretty damaging, considering he was part and parcel of that administration. It shows a lack of faith in Joe Biden, the man himself, and it matches some polling to that effect that was also taken a few weeks back. Look, I think the Americans realized that they were snookered on this. They were fooled by this guy. He promised unity. We have race relations now at an all-time low in our country. We have gun violence up in our country from a guy who wants to ban guns. The policy platitudes just don't match the actual real world actions out there. I also think that some of what he's pushed in his first 100 days doesn't match what most American households care about. They've been pushing statehood for Washington, D.C., the swamp. They've been pushing transgenders to compete against daughters in sports for college scholarships, things that are outside the mainstream of what most American households care about. And that does show up in the polling.
Yeah, they also, I mean, he's called together a commission to look at how the Supreme Court might change, including adding new justices. We'll wait to see their final recommendation. In the meantime, Senator Lindsey Graham has commented on the president's handling of the border crisis and his foreign policy as well. Here's that.
I like Joe Biden, but I'm in the 43%. He's been a disaster on foreign policy. The border is in chaos. The Iranians are off the mat. He's opening up negotiations with the Iranian regime, and they haven't done a damn thing to change. Afghanistan's going to fall apart. Russia and China are already pushing him around. So I'm very worried. I think he's been a very destabilizing president.
Dino, your thoughts on the senator's remarks there, and again, this 53% approval rating?
Sure. Well, I agree with Senator Graham. His policies on the border have been awful. He's walked some of it back, which is good, but they're still not good. Joe Biden is like an unsalted, unbuttered, boiled potato. And your only other option to eat is a piece of steak that the media has told you is poisoned. And so, by default, a lot of people who listen to those media outlets say, okay, I'm going to go for the boiled potato. But you're not going to get excited over a boiled potato. So this poll is not really surprising to me at all, because it was an anti-Trump vote. We haven't had an election like this since Jimmy Carter in 1976, which is why, to this point, I've called Biden's presidency Jimmy Carter Part 2.
Well, we'll wait and see what happens next. Of course, might be a little too early for 2024, but we're always thinking about it here. We're always following politics, and we appreciate our political panel weighing in as well. Hal Lambert, Jennifer Kearns, and Dino Scaros. Thanks so much, guys. We appreciate it.